Hong Kong, and Singapore all employ the former rural poor. Singapore is the most spectacular case. This city-state lacks every resource, including space. It is 27 miles long, 14 wide, and a moderately ambulatory citizen can easily traverse it on foot in a day, along with space, minerals, raw materials, food, energy. Everything except people is lacking. Because so much is lacking, Singapore does show what is possible. Its modern history begins with the Japanese surrender in 1945. There was an earlier surrender, but only this one is commemorated here in wax. Then its future was as a British colony or protectorate. And now the remnants of British culture are hard to find.
我觉得这一天是我一生最伟大的日子。1945年9月12日，这个重要的日子。
But if you want to feel like a rubber planter down for the week or Somerset Maugham on a visit, you can still go to Raffles Hotel. What is it that makes a country that's without land, without material resources, almost without space, actually work and work pretty well for its 2 million people? Provide them with a per capita income that's around 9 times that of India, maybe 6 times that of China. There must be a lesson for the world here in Singapore, and we should know what it is. Location will surely be cited. Singapore is on one of the great ocean crossroads of the world, and for generations it has been a dividing line. People have said east of Singapore, west of Singapore. But being on a crossroads has worked no similar miracle for Panama or for Suez. I would divide the credit between the people and the government. The talents of 3 races, Chinese, Indians, Malays, are blended here, and they work together without the fettering traditions to which they would very often be subject in their home countries. Migrants and their descendants always work better than people who have been too long at home. It's very unfashionable in our time to explain economic development by race or ethnic origin. We carefully avoid it in books, although we take it for granted in conversation. I would attribute much in Singapore to the excellent ethnic admixture. The Mandarins are the Chinese. They bring to Singapore their art and their ancient experience of organization. Singapore is organized, led by the Chinese. Malays provide the traditional crafts and services. Here fishing, and here in a national dance. And finally, the Indians. Some are Tamils, a few Punjabis. Indians are traders, lawyers, in the professions. Most numerous, the Chinese. An interesting and indispensable man, this. He is Hao Yun Chong, minister for whatever needs to get done. He is the Development Bank, Airline Port Authority, head of the civil service, the all-purpose public entrepreneur. And Lee Kuan Yew, the all-purpose politician. He is one of the more remarkable and durable people of our time, also an old friend. Once a few years ago, he decided to take a sabbatical leave from being prime minister and came to Harvard for a term.
I see you've got a rather strange configuration.
Here they concentrate on land reclamation, increasing Singapore's scarcest resource and what it costs. And on the port, a uniquely vital facility.
Work out to per square foot.
About $2.29 square foot.
It would cost at least $8 in the port because the water there is deep.
Including the shore protection works, I think.
And if you take into consideration...
They are practical men, pragmatic, which is to say they test action not according to theory, but according to what works.
Present value of the...
What is it?
Present value is around
110?
100, 200.
He's getting more. I know he's getting more.
Hao Yun Chong reports on the economic prospect. Like all who so report, he says things are getting better, but he adds a sour note or two.
Setting precedents.
So we can ignore this
We can
one.
ignore this one. Doesn't make very much difference.
All right, next, how's your economic indicators?
I think we are passing through probably the trough. Balance, I think we probably have seen the worst with the coming in of the Christmas, New Year season. I think there'll be more. The inventories have been run down completely now. And there will be, I think, a slight improvement over the next few months, 2 or 3 months.
So we won't end up with a +2 to 3. We'll end up with a +0.5 to 1.
Plus 1 to 2. I think your prognosis was correct, between 1 and 2.
The Singapore government contribution is to make pragmatic use of all ideas and to refuse to be the captive of any one idea. Is Adam Smith alive here? The answer is very much. There can be few places in the world where self-interest is pursued more diligently and with more visible enjoyment in the results. Does Keynes survive here? Also very much. Public and private outlays are related as a matter of course to the availability of workers and the current and the prospective capacity of the economy. The post-Keynesian view of inflation, a view with which I've been very much concerned, is also treated with real respect in Singapore. Wage settlements are carefully controlled to minimize inflation and keep Singapore products competitive in world markets. When other people talk of an incomes policy, Singapore economists and businessmen and union leaders must surely yawn because they've had one for many years. Is there planning? Is there socialism in Singapore? Have the Webbs and Franklin Roosevelt and Clement Attlee been here? Would Enoch Powell and Barry Goldwater be distressed? The answer again is yes. If housing, the harbor works, transportation, trained people, if any of these are needed or other things, the government provides them. Self-interest serves pretty well as a motivation, but it is recognized in Singapore that it does not serve all purposes and that it serves best within a framework of careful overall planning. Singapore has another virtue. The rhetoric of both free enterprise and socialism is almost completely absent. This is also aesthetically rather a treat. Singapore doesn't lend itself to the starry-eyed voyage of discovery. Success has a price, necessary or otherwise. Some of the rules governing personal behavior have been intrusive and petty. And in a world of soft states, Singapore is a very hard one. Lee Kuan Yew comes here to open Parliament. And Parliament is a very acquiescent body. A Parliament, in fact, can be a little like a company board of directors controlled by the management. Large companies are not democracies of their stockholders, nor is Singapore. Commercialization also has its artistic price. This miscarriage celebrates a notable Singapore product, the Tiger Balm Gardens. But let us not be elitist, perfectionist. Something against which we're all warned these days. Singapore does provide its people with a decent and very agreeable existence. Singapore does show that there can be a solution to the problem of many people and too little land. Many people do live here and live very well on very little space. The concept of a city-state is valid and workable. But we had better not suppose that it is a safe or an easy solution. For one thing, it requires peace. Singapore must have friendly, well-disposed neighbors. War almost anywhere could be a disaster. And everything depends, too, on the continuing good sense of the government and the people. Change anywhere else in the world, recessions, inflation, alterations in trade routes, affect Singapore. And it cannot affect such changes. It must always adjust to these changes, and this adjustment must be governed by thought and not formula, pragmatism and not ideology, and cool good sense and not political passion. That is the kind of government that is required, and the people must have the confidence and the good nature and the discipline to accept change even when it hurts.